All right, welcome everybody to my Tuesday hobby live stream. I believe I've got everything working. Do let me know if my audio sounds too loud or too quiet, or if it's just not working for you. But I think we are good, I believe. Yes, my chat window is even working. I think we're good. So today is my first official ever sponsored live stream, thanks to onlygames.co. I almost butchered their name, but it's onlygames.co. This is a fantastic company, and I just want to talk about them very briefly before we begin, where you can get 3D printed models printed from some of your favorite creators. They work with a lot of indie creators like One Page Rules, which is where I got this miniature from, but they also work with people like my friends over at Ignition Core. So if you're looking for like some really cool mech models that have like this cute anime chibi style to them, like they're adorable, I highly recommend checking it out. It's also a really cool looking game. But they also have people like Titanforge and a variety of other people that put their content on their site, and you can go and buy models off of there. That way, if you don't have a 3D printer like myself, then you can still get these models and get to be able to paint some of these really cool sculpts, which I, for one, really like. And recently, starting in September, you can actually start getting some colored prints of some of these models. Now, this is dependent on whether or not the creator that you're buying from has created a colored version of their sculpt, but One Page Rules does. And just look at this really cool Mummified King model that they sent me. Like, I actually think the quality of, let me turn him this way a little bit, make sure you guys can see him well. Like, I actually think the quality of the color is pretty darn good. And like, I feel like in the past when I've seen colored prints from 3D printed stuff, the colors bleed a little bit more, but these are actually very crisp and clean. I like that you don't really lose any of the details, and they even managed to do a multitude of like yellows to really make the gold portions feel gold-like. I think his flesh looks really cool, and I actually love what they did on his weapon here with the multi-tone to give it a little bit of a mystical energy vibe, or at least that's what I'm getting. Maybe it's also meant to be just like the sheen of the metal, but regardless, I actually think it looks really cool. But what I'm going to be doing today is focusing on the unpainted version that they sent me. Now, I've already primed this model up using some Wraithbone, but I'm going to be trying to mimic what we've got going on with our colored version, because I just think that would be kind of fun to do. And honestly, this is the closest thing I've ever painted to Tomb Kings, and I am super, super hyped. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. It does look like sound is good, so thank you for confirming that in the chat. And yeah, we're just gonna jump right in. If you guys are interested in any of these models, maybe you've been interested in getting some of the One Page Rules minis, but you don't have a 3D printer, check out onlygames.co. I've left a link in the video description, whether you're watching this later on YouTube or currently with the live stream. And if you follow that link and you use my discount code, you can save 15% off of your order, which is just a nice little bonus for you that for being here and watching this and taking advantage of that. So I would highly recommend it. Check them out for sure. I really want to look through more of what's available on there, because I was browsing the website last night when I was looking through just what One Page Games has, and I just saw like a variety of just really cool models, and I hadn't actually looked in super detail at what their lineup was like. There's a lot of them that are available on onlygames.co, and I might be grabbing some more, because the Tomb King stuff especially, I know it's not actually Tomb King because that's Games Workshop, but they're very, very similar, and I love the mummy aesthetic, and I'm very, very pleased. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by working on the more recessed areas. So I'm going to work on his like fleshy areas. I mean, it's not really fleshy, right? He's a mummy. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to first put down a layer of pallid bone from the army painter. And then after that, I'm either going to do more Carrion Grime or maybe Soulblight Gray, because I want a little bit of a decayed linen look. And I think this might give me a good effect of that. So let's go ahead and get it shook up. I moved my vortex mixer over so I can just like lean, and it's right there, and you might hear the of it going, but it works really, really well, and I love having it. Also cannot wait for the tech to get more mainstream, but that's one of the reasons that like I do like seeing companies like Only Games pop up, so that for those people who maybe either can't afford a 3D printer, don't have a space for the 3D printer, like, or just are a little intimidated to jump into that, I just realized I forgot water. Chaos Cultist! Thank you! Whoops. I absolutely thought I was totally prepped for this, and then I just looked at my space and was like, oh, water, please. It'd be good to have that. Kind of can't paint without it. I mean, you could, especially with speed paint and contrast paint, because they are very, very fluid, but you would end up wasting so much paint without having a little bit of excess water just to like thin it down and make it a little bit more fluid, because yeah, it would not be good. So as soon as I get that, we will actually get started on this. But in the meantime, we can continue to look at how cool these miniatures are. Oh, thank you, sir. You are wonderful. Oh, and more of my brushes. Woo! Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are the best. Beautiful. All right, now we can actually get working. And honestly, he actually brought me some of the better brushes that I was hoping he would too. So he is amazing like that. Let's actually get some of this color down and get to painting. Hello, it's welcome from Scotland. That's really cool. Hello, everybody who is in chat. Thank you guys so much for being here. Do let me know. Have you guys actually, do any of you in chat have a 3D printer? And if so, have you used My Mini Factory, which is actually one of the, I guess, business family members of onlygames.co. I keep wanting to slightly say their name wrong because of another website, but they actually are partners with My Mini Factory. So if you have bought STLs, for those of you that have 3D printers off of there, a lot of the creators who are on there are also on Only Games, because I believe Only Games joined their family of companies in actually this year, which is really, really cool. Just, I love seeing the expanse of this type of, like, the section of the hobby, if you know what I mean. Seeing the independent creators come in, a lot of these, like, indie companies who aren't as big as Games Workshop, but frankly have really high quality miniatures. And now there's a great way to get them printed so that you can paint them up yourself and play with them and use them. Like, honestly, I really, really do like these mummies. I keep wanting to call them Tomb Kings. They just feel so Tomb King old world to me. But I think that of literally any mummy type thing that I see in miniatures, every single time, it's always Tomb Kings. All right, excellent. I'm glad. I was just double checking chat, making sure everything was going well, and then I'm keeping up with it. All right, I'm gonna focus a little bit on getting some of this more recessed area, because I think I need to pop him off of his base to get behind. Yeah, there we go. And then he's got some nice little linen robes peeking through there. I do love the attention to detail and just how high quality this print is. Like, in my experience, sometimes 3D printed models can be a little textured in not the way that you really want them to be. But I have not specifically noticed that with this particular model, which has been really nice to see. It's very smooth. I feel like the details are all showing up really beautifully. I didn't have any concerns while I was priming him. I always have concerns when I'm priming miniatures because I'm me, and I don't know, I get really stressed when I'm going to prime miniatures because I just always feel like no! I just knocked his arm off. What? Holy cow, I don't know why that happened. Well, let's see if we can get that glued back on. One moment, folks. I'm actually going to use it. I'm going to glue it on at the end, just in case me working on it, so that we don't have to stop working on it, doesn't affect it. But yeah, I just accidentally, I don't know even what I did. Maybe you guys in chat can tell me. But I don't know what I bumped, but I accidentally knocked his little arm off. All right, well, maybe the plastic is a smidge brittle, or I just was really aggressive. I'm not 100% sure how I did that, but we're going to continue working regardless and keep going with our project. Actually, I'm going to take this as a blessing for now that I can get back to his underside a little bit more and actually get that to look really, really nice and solid and clean. And you know what? It works out. It worked out fine. I do really, really like the details though. I think somebody in chat asked me where in the States I am from. I am on the West Coast. And that is about as far as I'm going to say. We do get really nice weather over here. It's very, very lovely. I do like being on this side of the coast. My winters aren't quite as cold as some of my friends in other parts of the States. It's very, very nice. Or some of those of you who are like in Europe and stuff where you get a lot colder winters as well. Yeah, this is looking really good. So I think after we're done with the flesh tone, or his mummy robes, I guess, what I'm going to then do next is work my way out. So we're probably going to get maybe the underside of the cloak, which I haven't decided if I want to do in a multi-tone. I really do like doing multi-tone colors with my paint schemes. Oop, that's a little darker than I want. Pull some of that back. There we go. All right, and then let's pop over to this arm that accidentally fell off. Oh, cool. He actually is partially bony. I'm looking at the fingers here. I don't know. Let me scoot over here. Adjust slightly. Can you guys see this? They're very bony and I like it. I was expecting them to be a little bit more wrapped, but they're actually skeletonal. Like skeletonal? Yes. I think that's a word. Probably not. Who knows? But I'm going to make it a word. And I really like it. They're very bony. And all painted. Get that side painted. There we go. All right, we're gonna let that dry for a smidge, and then I'm going to pull out, I think I'm gonna use Soul Blight Gray. You know what? I'm actually gonna go with Rattling Grime. I'm worried Soul Blight Gray is going to end up being a little bit too murky on it because it has a little bit of this opacity that I really normally like. But I'm worried it's gonna wash out these really subtle, like soft brown tones, which can I just say, I absolutely love the Army Painter's Pallid Bone color tone. Like whenever, I feel like there was a point back, I don't know, maybe it was just the old version of Skeleton Horde or the first version of Skeleton Horde, but I feel like this is what it used to do. And in my experience recently, it always ends up being just more dark than I really want it to be, like in a weird, almost glossy in the same way that snakebite leather happens with contrast paint. But it's so odd. It's so odd. We get some heat in the West Coast where I am, but not like super, super hot. So if you're looking for like really warm weather, Graham, I don't know if this is going to be the best place. Although, like, there's other portions, like you could go to like the Midwest and probably be fine. There's a lot more heated weather there, like in Texas and Arizona and those kinds of places, Nevada maybe. But I don't know, I wouldn't want to live in the desert personally. That's just me. I just wouldn't want to live in a desert. I thought about it. I actually thought about it for a long time. Considered moving to Vegas just because rent's really cheap. Or real estate's really cheap, but yeah, I just don't think that the desert lifestyle would end up working out super well for me. But that's just me, that's just me. All right, are you dry enough for me to keep working on? Or no, you're definitely not. All right, while we're letting that dry, what I'm actually gonna start doing is working on his cloak a little bit, and actually this, his wrap around him, the loincloth area, because that goes sort of underneath and I don't want to get too much color on it when I do the cloak. So what I'm going to use for that, what they did is they actually went with like what looks like a reddish brown into some darker brown tones, and I do like that. What I decided though was instead of, I might go with Sigvald Burgundy. That was kind of what I was debating. that this here? I'm like reaching through some of my cables and I don't want to like mess up my camera. All right, so let's try, I think, Sigvald Burgundy, and then we'll maybe layer it with a brown wash to deepen it and make it a little bit deeper. Also, I have to show you before I end up using it, a couple of my yellows and my Soul Blight Gray paint, they have separated so insanely. It's astounding, actually. It's quite astounding. Oh yeah, I think this is gonna be a really great color for this, because it'll not end up being, it'll be in still the nice rich red color tones that I kind of associate with Pharaohs, but it's not gonna be as bright as what I'm gonna do on the Cloak. So I think this is gonna be great. And I'm actually gonna leave the longer portion that hangs down the very front separate, because I might end up doing it in a different color. Let me not be totally off screen. How does that look for you guys? Can you guys see that super well, or do you prefer if I were up here? Ooh, let me spin it the right way. Does it work better for you guys up here? I think it's probably gonna be better if it's up here, right? Because you guys can probably see a bit better. Let me go ahead and just start laying down some color. And you'll notice that I haven't done any cleanup, even though I definitely got some of that pallid bone on some of this cloth portions. It's such a pale color tone, I'm not even gonna worry about it. I am gonna be a little bit delicate around some of these details to try to minimize cleanup, just because that does slow our process down, and I want to show you guys as much as I can. Maybe even complete this model, who knows, that'd be awesome. Depends on how much I end up talking. How distracted I get. And if I can remember to look at the right camera. All right, let's go ahead. Get behind him a little bit. There we go. I really do like what these colors do, just over all these folds. Like, fabric is one of my favorite things to paint using contrast paint. Or just these types of fluid paints, whether it be, Okay, good. I am so glad that you guys can see what I'm doing very well and that it's not looking super awkward or anything. That is the main goal, because I am of the full belief that one of the best ways to learn how to paint sometimes is just to watch how other people paint. I am slightly off screen. Because like that's what I do. Whenever I'm watching YouTubers online, you know, other creators and stuff, and seeing how they're doing stuff, I'm always paying attention to their hand movements, what they're doing with their brushes, how they're trying to get it to flow, how they're pulling the brush, the direction, all that kind of stuff. Because that really can help, I think, guide your own painting, because then you can see like, oh, well, I want this effect. What if I pulled my hand the same way? Does that work? And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's really dependent, but I think it's useful. So hopefully you guys have found it useful. Although I will admit there have been times where I've been doing painting tutorials in the past and totally not realized how just either off camera I was, or how unfocused my like camera actually was on the model, and some of the B-roll footage that we end up not using is just, oh boy, it's not the best. Okay, this is looking really good. I think I've gotten behind him fully, but no, I have not. Is that worth risking? Okay, I'm gonna get a smaller brush because I do want to get it covered, because there is like this slight gap in his arms where you can see a little bit of unpainted butt back there, and we don't want his butt to be unpainted. But I do need a smaller brush for this, and or just maybe a flatter brush. Where is... There you are. I was looking for my Tamiya brush. I actually have found myself really gravitating towards these Tamiya like HF brushes. They're fine point ones. They're synthetic. But I'm a big fan of synthetic brushes. I know some people are really against them, but I think for contrast paints, especially, they work just really well. All right, I'm going to focus for a moment, so do forgive me. I think I've almost got it. Okay. Yes. Why are you not? Why is paint not wanting to stick to this one ridge? Can I not get it primed well enough? That's entirely possible. I think that is looking good. I think I have, yes. I believe I have covered his butt well enough that you can't actually tell if there's any gaps in where their paint is back there, which I'm hoping just means that I got it all and that there isn't actually a gap there anymore. And I'm actually really liking the, it is way brighter than what they did. It's way, way brighter than what they did. But that's okay. We're going to knock the color back a little bit once it has dried a smidge. Do I want to just do, you know what? We're going to do the loincloth portion just in this color as well. There's really no reason for it to not be. And technically, I assume it's part of the same, like, spool of fabric, right? So on this, Graham asks what paints I am using. I am using a mix of both the Army Painter speed paints as well as Citadel contrast colors. Right now with this particular pinky color tone, this is Sigvald Burgundy. It's part of the new Contrast 2.0 line, which I call new, but it's been out for like several months now. But I do also use the speed paint line, which I do really like because they come in dropper bottles, but they work essentially the same. And they are expanding that line soon, which I am very excited to see. I can't wait to see what new colors they come up with. Not come up with, or not like inventing new colors, but like what new colors they release, what direction those end up going. I'm really hoping for a lot more blues and greens because frankly, those are some of my favorite colors to work with. But I'd also like more reds and purples. Definitely need some more purples. They've only got like one and I like it, but it's very dark. Like it is super dark and I mean, I had this complaint actually with Citadel prior to the 2.0 lineup coming out of I wanted like a purple, like a bright purple color tone. And that's what what is it called? What are you, Volupus? No. Luxian. That's what Luxian purple ended up being from the contrast color line. But I want to see what Army Painter does with this because they have their like alien purple color tone in their standard bases. And I'd love to see like that level of purple from them in a speed paint, which would be really neat to see. Although there's plenty of different companies, if you're interested in these kinds of paints, that you could definitely look into. You know, Army Painter, obviously, Citadel, obviously, but I think even Vallejo now has a contrast equivalent. I think Green Stuff World has one. I think there's like a couple other places that do as well. It's definitely a growing trend in paint lines, which is funny because they just essentially are inks, at least in how I feel like they function over top of miniature. Which means you could just, in theory, go like buy inks from an art supply store in giant bottles and go to town because they're essentially acrylic inks. It's just something so nice about them. Hopefully that is a long-winded way to answer your question. Yeah, speed paints they're relatively new. They came out earlier this year from the Army Painter. I don't know how accessible, like I've been to the UK once and I did actually intentionally make sure to go and visit some game stores while I was there because I was like, there's no way I'm not. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to like Warhammer World or any of the Games Workshop stores specifically. But I did go to like a locally run one and I could not tell you, it's been years. So for those of you that are in London, I don't know where it was, but it was a pretty impressive store. It was definitely primarily focused on wargaming, although it did have board games in it too, which was really cool. That was actually one of the things that I wanted to see. I was like, oh, well, what does a UK board game or game store look like? Is it just purely going to be Warhammer and war games, or is it going to have a lot more board games in it? And at the time, when I was there, the board game boom was still, I think, in its rise. So I don't know how prominent that is like nowadays. I know there's a lot of like board game cafes, but I don't know how like many stores they still have in the UK. I forgot why I was specifically talking about this, but I felt like it was relevant. And now I don't remember. But hopefully that was just a fun little story of the one time that I went to the UK or to England and got to go to some game stores and explore around. I feel like I brought up the store for another reason though, and I totally cannot think of it right now. I do think that my pallid bone is dry enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and try Soul Blight gray over top of it, which is one of the Citadel color shades, not one of their contrast colors. But just look how freaking separated this thing is. Like, it's not supposed to look like that, although it does kind of look like what they did on his weapon, so I may even end up using this on the weapon too. We'll see. But for now, I definitely want to use it as a wash over top, what I've already done for the lips of his bandages. Of his wrappings? Are they, like, they're not really considered bandages, are they? Or they're just more like wrappings. All right, it's still not mixed, so we're gonna keep going. Can you guys actually hear the vortex mixer? Or is it just really loud in my head because it's rattling through my arm? And just do a little bit of hand shaking too. Sometimes I find you need to do a little bit of both because you get slightly different motions out of the paint, and it helps just remix all that pigment back into the medium. All right, it's looking pretty good. We're probably gonna thin it because we really don't want this to overpower our colors we've used previously. Let's just water it down a bunch, and then, you know what, we're gonna do a test on his bony hand that fell off that I need to repair later. Okay, I'm liking what that's doing. I'm gonna set it aside and let it dry and see what it's done, and then we'll come back to doing the main guy. And in the meantime, I'm going to work on a little bit more of his like clothing details, and I think we're gonna move on to the cloak now, or at least the underside of it. So for the underside of the cloak, I'm gonna go, you didn't really do a multi-tone. So they went with like a little bit of a reddish orange, so I'm gonna use Blood Angels. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do it both in Blood Angels, and then I'm gonna put a wash on the underside to give it a little bit more of a darker tone. And then I'll do a second overall wash of both pieces with like a light brown to give it a little bit of a dirt effect. I should absolutely shake this before I use it. That would be good. Don't forget to shake your paints, folks. Yeah, definitely look for more speed paints. There is a limited number of colors that you can get right now. Like if you find it and you want to get it offline or something like that, or you find it in a store, the mega pack, it will just get you everything. Like that'll get you every color that they currently have available, and I would definitely recommend it. That's what I have, is I got the mega pack, and I like all of the colors. I think it's a very good starting range of colors to be working with. I cannot wait to see what they come out with later, to really open up what other color options that they have. Because like, I know you can mix these paints, but I just, for some reason, I'm not super big into mixing my paints. I feel like if I do that, I'm going to not get a good consistency. I just realized I need to do a smidge amount of cleanup because I got some pink on his cloak when I didn't want it. And do I really? No, I do care. I do care enough. We're also gonna close that. Where is my Wraith Bone? Boom. All right. Got a little bit of my base color tone. And it with a little bit of water. And then we're just gonna cover that. It probably wouldn't have mattered a huge amount, simply because the pink is also within the red color palette, but I get anal sometimes about that kind of stuff. And I cannot tell you how many hours that I've spent just like tidying something up that really didn't need that level of tidy, but I just couldn't help myself. I'm also giving this a little bit of another layer of Wraithbone just in case. I thought I did a pretty good job of priming it, but I like to be, oops, I just pulled a bunch of paint off there. I like to be extra careful. All right, we'll let that dry and I'll chat with you guys while we do so because we got a couple of things all drying right now. I have never been to Scotland. No, I have never been to Scotland, although it would be very cool to visit both Scotland and Ireland. I would love to go to both. You have a lot of wee hairy animals. I do like small hairy animals. They're very cute. Honestly, like the castles just on the entire island would be really cool to see. Like I have a thing for castles. It's one of the reasons that with some of the recent Lego releases with the castle and some of their upcoming ones, I've gotten really into that. I'm really already just, I have to tangent very slightly because I was looking at this guy and I'm like, I really, really like the way he's turning out already. And like, I just need to compliment One Page Rules on their design, how cool this looks, and honestly, how like quickly the miniatures actually got to me from onlygames.co. When they contacted me about this, it came out really fast, and I actually think that their like lead time is about like 5 days or so, which is not bad. Like that's pretty fast. It gives you a good idea of like, okay, I need this miniature by this point. I know I can get it painted by this point. Which means I'll need to order it by this, which is just really, really cool. And I do love the fact that they actually offer these 3D printed colored versions as well. Because like if I was on a severe time crunch and I just didn't want to paint a miniature for myself, I would totally just do this. Like for especially like D&D games, all kinds of things. I don't know how many of their creators are actually working with 3D colored versions of their models. But I hope that more people do it because I actually think the technology for this has gotten pretty impressive. Like genuinely, just gotten really, really impressive. All right, are you... Oh, I just realized I need a little bit of my Sigmar Burgundy. There is a little gap in between the, like, I don't know what these are called. Whatever these kind of little flat metal embellishments that hang down, like these little dangly bits, there's a little bit of this cloth between there. And I didn't paint it. So let's get that taken care of before we do anything else, because otherwise I'll forget. And then I will not remember to do it later. Also just enhancing a little bit of the natural shadows and highlights that we got, because sometimes it just adds a little extra oomph. You can get a really nice richness out of your pigments from your contrast paints if you just don't dilute them quite as much with water, which is kind of how I'm getting this a little bit richer color tone as I'm painting down. Looking super good. Okay, get the brush cleaned off, get this paint pot closed up. Are you dry enough for me to work with? No. How is our test going? Yeah, I think that's doing what I want it to. I don't know how I don't know how super well you guys can see it because it's so freakishly tiny, but it's definitely giving me the effect I want. So I'm gonna do it a little bit more on this hand. Because it's basically giving it this dusty finish in the recesses, which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted a little bit more of that bone color tone to sit on top, pop through in my highlighted areas, and then that gray, almost dingy, caked on dust look to like sit into the recesses. And that is pretty much what I'm getting out of this. So that being the case, let's go ahead and actually apply some of this to the bigger model while we let the cloak dry a little bit more. And I'm just gonna do this kind of delicately with my small brush so I can be really, really controlled. Yeah, I was really worried this was gonna be dusty in a negatively impactful way, but it's actually doing exactly what I want it to. It's also not really lifting my paint in the same way that I feel like I sometimes hear people stress about when it comes to the speed paint color tones. They occasionally act like they can sometimes lift back off of a model, but I think if you just give it enough time to dry in between colors, you're usually pretty fine. Because I can get the same exact results with contrast paint on occasion, and used it to my advantage more than anything else. Allows me to correct a mistake, which is always really nice. Oh, I just realized I forgot to paint his hand. Oh my god, the trend is continuing. No! Okay, so for those of you that are joining me for the first time in one of my hobby live streams, one of the things that has happened literally almost every time that I've done it so far is I've inevitably forgotten to paint something in a section where I've already used a color. And I just realized that not only did I forget, and the reason the hand trend has continued, because it's been mostly figures' hands, and as you can see, I forgot to paint this hand right here. The other problem is that I just realized I forgot to paint his feet, and he is in fact barefoot, so we should probably paint those. So let me just get a little bit more of my, not this color, this is the wrong contrast color, don't use that. Where is, what did I do with pallid bone? I found it. Don't worry, everybody. I found it. It was just behind my water. Whoops. All right, let's go ahead and get that. There we go. That is more the color I was expecting to come out of the bottle when I laid it down on the palette. Go ahead and get this working. Let's just go over top because I can't actually fully tell what's going on with his feetsies. Oh, he's got wraps and bone. Okay, cool. I am still gonna put the gray on his like skeletal flesh as well as the wrap flesh, just because I do think that like he'd probably just be consistently dusty like, across the board. Although I might go back in on the skeletal portions and re-enhance the pallid bone to make it a little bit more bone-like. That's kind of a fun idea. It helps add a little bit of variety without it being too bad. Oh, I really do like the way that that is drying. What a lovely wash. There we go. I think I got the entirety of his hand. We've got one more foot to do. Yeah. There we go. So let me know in chat. It's fine, it's fine. I know I'll get there eventually, but it's something that I just keep forgetting to do. It's just painting portions of the models, and I'm like, why? Why does this keep happening to me? Probably because I'm not super paying attention. Oh yeah, that's looking really cool. I like it. I like how this mummy man is looking. Do I need to paint any of your face? You have a bony face, so let's go ahead. We're not gonna put any right here so that it stands out a bit more. He probably keeps his face pretty clean. Has a, I don't know, some sort of Egyptian servant-y person come in and like dust his face with a feather duster. That's what I imagine. All the Tomb Kings have. They should have like little chicken bone creatures doing it for them. I'm imagining now Beauty and the Beast like feather dusters, but like in like an animal form, because a lot of the Tomb King models in, say, Total War Warhammer 3 and 2, when they existed, were, I mean, it's a lot of animal themes and everything like that, because Egyptian mythology uses that a lot too. Just think it'd be cute. Just think it would be cute. Do I want to use pallid bone as the wash to go over his loincloth? No, I think I'm going to keep it separate so it doesn't end up matching it too much and making it look like his cloth is like part of him or something. But it's an interesting idea. Did I get, okay, I feel like the feet are fine. I'm gonna enhance the bony portions a bit more, just preemptively. I'll probably have to come back and do it again a little bit anyways. So we'll let that dry, and now we'll actually work on his cloak. So thankfully, some of my red paint is still good to go because I kind of watered it down fairly well. We are gonna get our pot open though to make sure that we can keep going. Do any of you guys have any like big projects you're working on right now? I don't have anything big I'm working on. I'm just working on a bunch of small stuff, but I'd love to know what you guys are doing with your hobby lives. Oh yeah, that red is already looking super cool. Like what it's doing. Be a little careful, make sure that I don't accidentally get this anywhere I don't want it, or especially where I've already painted. That always sucks. Cloaks are always so awkward to paint because they end up being so, like, especially when they're attached to a model and you can't remove them or anything like that. Although I guess I could have just, no. I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, so like it's just so hard to paint sometimes because then you just gotta like really press it against the cloak and hope that you don't touch any other surface. And I always get so very worried. I think this is actually coming out pretty nicely. Rob, am I on screen? Yes, okay, good. I just realized I was not focusing on whether or not I was still on screen or not, and I was really worried that I was just ignoring you guys and you might be screaming at me going, Angela, focus on where you're painting. So good, so good. Oh, let's flip you around here. Pull some of that paint so it doesn't pool as awkwardly there. Please and thank you. I think I've been trying to get a lot better about paying attention to, because sometimes I'm a bit negligent about it. Paying attention to where my contrast paints are actually pooling. On most occasions, I would say, could I please get some paint? This is very low pot. I would say on most occasions, it ultimately is not that big of a deal because the contrast paint will end up pooling in one of the recesses, especially in like fabric or something, and it ends up not being, you know, it just looks like a natural shadow. But occasionally it'll end up pooling in a place where it just really shouldn't, or, you know, doesn't make sense. And I'm trying to be better out doing that, because I've definitely noticed on some of my finished pieces, I'll be critiquing them as they're in their turnaround, you know, using my light box and everything, and I'll just be like, oh, well, that just doesn't look as good as I hoped it would. But it is what it is, and we gotta keep moving. Okay, I think it might be foolish, but because I want to make sure that they kind of blend well, I am gonna go ahead and just paint the back of this cloak, and also it's just gonna be very satisfying to watch happen. So enjoy this cloak painting. This gorgeous red color tone. Isn't it beautiful? I certainly think so. The contrast reds are definitely up there as just an overall color that I think they nailed with each of the ones. Like, I definitely have my favorites, I have my preferences. They swing wildly back and forth between each other because it depends on what I'm working on, but consistently they are just beautiful colors to lay down. Oh, so good, so good. And yes, I do on my own just fangirl about paint sometimes while I'm using them. 'Tis my way. We do need to pull a little bit of paint back here though. It's pulling a bit too heavy. Bit too heavy. I feel like I was on a remix there. There we go. How are we looking? Pretty darn good. I don't see any blank spots except for like on the tips, which is pretty standard for when I'm working on cloaks. Inevitably, there's a tip that I've missed. You can take that however you want to. Okay, I am feeling confident about that, and I'm really, really liking the way he's looking. Because that is actually a relatively large section of the model, and I do need it to dry before I do too much. Can I actually work on something on him? Okay, actually, before I take, because I was going to take a small break, because we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I was going to just honestly grab a little bit of caffeine because I'm feeling like I need it. But before I do that, I want to do a little bit of test of working with a little bit more of this pallid bone back over top the gray that has now dried. Hopefully you guys can see that well. If I do this, does it focus a bit better? Because there's not as much distance between like it and the background. Let me know if this looks a little bit better, if I have like my hand under it when I'm working on this small thing, or if it's just better to have the desk beneath it. But I really do want to make sure you guys can see these things well. Okay, yeah, I definitely want to do this. I want to go back over it. At least the bony, whoop, stop spinning it wildly. At least the bony areas I want to go back over with a little bit more pallid bone. Yeah. But his wraps, I'm gonna leave more in that dusty gray tone. I think that will end up working out really nicely in regards to just the subtle differences, you know? As somebody is holding the model up close and maybe inspecting it a little further. Because really, some of these details that I feel like we put into our models aren't actually visible from like a, it's on the table and away from me, and I'm just playing my game and not sitting there going, yes, I'm inches from the model and I can see every tiny little imperfection. But really, like when it's this distance away, time you're not going to notice most of that stuff, so don't stress yourself, guys, too much if you're working on something and you're like, this feels sloppy, because I bet you step away from it a little bit and it's not going to feel nearly as sloppy as you thought it was. Thank you. Thank you for saying that it looks like a lovely paint job. I'm actually very happy with how it's progressing. I think he's looking really cool. I really like what ended up happening on his chest so far with the gray and the brown combo. That is looking pretty sweet. And that is part of his chest that I just did not paint. One moment. I thought that was part of the linens, and it's not. It is definitely part of him. So we'll need to do that, go back over it with a little bit of gray just to make it blend, because you can definitely tell. All right, but that does look really good. While I'm letting his cloak finish drying, I am going to step away for a small break. I will be back at the top of the hour, which is noon my time, but whatever time it is at your place, it'll be at the top of the hour. So I'll be right back, you guys, and wish me luck. All right, I am back, and it is true. I did, in fact, accidentally immediately just like ruin what, not actually ruin, but I popped off a piece off of what the Chaos Cultist was working on for his Lego build because there was a really cool looking toilet in the build, and I totally looked like it could close the lid because it had the seat up, and it was really funny to me, and I wanted to move it, and it definitely did not. It was not on a hinge. It was not on a hinge like I expected or hoped it would be, and I am sorry. I hope he got it back on there. I felt so bad. But let's come back to painting our Only Games miniature that they so kindly sent me as part of today's sponsored stream. I do want to thank them once again for sending me over both of these really cool one-page rule Mummified King models to work with. This one is an already pre-colored version, and this one is the one I'm working on currently. I did somehow manage to snap off his arm, so if you do see that he's like missing an arm and you're like, where's his weapon? That's what happened. I'm gonna glue it on after the stream is over. But I honestly kind of figured having a little bit of a gap there to be able to get to some of the underside of his cloak and his butt ended up being very useful to me. So I will take the slight blunder on my part. Now, before I went on break, I did see that Lonnie asked whether or not I batch paint or I paint a single miniature at a time when I am painting an army, and it really depends. I do a little bit of a mix of both. Usually when I'm first testing out what I want to do with a model or with a particular color scheme for an army, I might only work at one miniature at a time because I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do. But generally, once I have figured out, okay, this is the actual color palette that I want to work with, I will start doing things in usually squads of 5 men at a time. That's what I was doing, especially with my orc army, but I also did it when I was building my Death Guard. The Death Guard, I did end up painting like some of the Poxwalkers though in really big batches. The only thing that I will say that I definitely always paint as a single model entity at a time is definitely characters. So for example, like this, if this was like a leader character, I would definitely paint him by himself like I'm doing now, rather than doing him with a group of models, because I really want to focus on the details and attention that I think a character deserves over, say, maybe going a little bit faster and not caring quite as much when I'm doing some batch painting of just, say, standard troops or that kind of thing. So yeah, that is how I tend to do painting. I do definitely a mix of both. I would honestly just really encourage you to figure out what works best for you individually, because I think sometimes with those kinds of recommendations of like, oh, this is how you should paint for an army because it's the most effective, well, it may not be the most effective for you if what the artist you are trying to mimic has a different setup or time that they can paint, different lifestyle, all sorts of things. So you definitely want to pick and choose elements of all the things that you're seeing that work best for you specifically. That's my recommendation. Yeah, Star Wars Legion is another one where I did some of the clones because I do have a little bit of a, I have 2 small Star Wars Legion armies, and I've got some clone troopers, which I did the clones, well, I didn't actually, Chaos Cultist painted most of them, but he did those in batches too, but then I helped him with some of the characters on it. And we definitely did those ones on a more individual basis. It really, I think, is dependent on what army you're building too. Because for example, in my experience with Space Marines from Games Workshop, you can, even the characters, you can end up kind of batch painting with some of the other characters because their armor is so unified that it doesn't make sense really to do them individually. But for example, the reasons I painted my orcs in only batches of 5 at a time, or sometimes individually, was because they have so many different other things going on their models that are not necessarily consistent amongst the rest of the units within the model, or within the, sorry, I said that backwards. That is not necessarily consistent within the rest of the models within the unit. It might be more beneficial to work on them individually to give them a little bit more character. It's really just up to you. What do I want to work on next? I need to put a little bit more of the Soul Blight Gray onto the bandages on his feet. And I want to enhance it a little bit on, I think his legs. I think I might have either missed that or just didn't get it quite as heavy as I wanted to. So let's work on that. And then I think we're going to move on I'm not going to do the details on the cloak yet or the cloth. I think I'm going to do some of the other materials first. Like, I think I want to start working on the gold, because realistically, I would actually love to finish this guy if I can. Get a little bit of gray in the inside of his hand, but I actually want to avoid the majority of this, because I actually do think I like it more as the bony color tone for where it's actually bone. These robes, though, or these wraps, not robes, definitely need some gray. Definitely need some gray. It's just a really nice, like, this is probably, like, Soul Blight Gray. Such a good color. Such a good wash. It works so well, both by itself and over top other things. Holy White, though, from Army Painter does very well as well. They're very similar, in my opinion, in regards to that kind of misty gray finish. Okay. Feeling good about that. Let's go ahead and move on to some yellows. So for this, I think I'm going to go back to my classic Yondon yellow, which has immensely separated. So Vortex Mixer. Oh, I don't know if, hello, Shy, welcome. Oh, Plastic Monkey, that's awesome. I love the Dark Age, or the Age of Darkness box. Like, that had such good models. The 30K models that Games Workshop are doing right now are just honestly some of my favorites. And even though I have not played any 30K yet with the new edition, from what I've read of the rules, if 10th edition continues to lean in the same direction that 9th has been, and kind of where it sucks and I'm not really enjoying it quite as much because of all the bloat, I think I might just stick purely to Warhammer 30K for a bit. Just because, I don't know, I'm not really pleased with where the game's going. Although, speaking of which, I really need to, because I keep getting people in my comments and everything constantly recommending one-page rules. So who knows, maybe after this, maybe I'll check out one-page rules now that I've seen how cool their miniatures are, and I hear that the game is very easy to play and you can pretty much use whatever you want, so that sounds pretty intriguing to me. All right, let's go ahead and start working on some of these gold details, and thankfully I have a lovely reference. What did you actually do? Okay, you do in fact have it be gold all the way around. Let's go then. Oh, Yondon Yellow works so well. It's just like a really beautiful bright gold color tone. There's a little bit of that like orange hue to it, but God, it just works so well as gold. Also, I love the way that it flows into the details on the armor. All those little lines and crevices, it just looks so good. They do, yeah, let's copy them and have this skull be in gold, because he's got so much bone color tone on him already because he's a mummy. Who's your mummy? Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is my mummy. Please and thank you. I'm distracting myself with pro wrestling. But yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it gold so that they stand out and don't just look like a part of him. Like his anatomy, specifically. Obviously, it's a part of him, it's what he's wearing. That does look cool. Yeah, we're definitely gonna need to put a wash over this because it's very, 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 very bright right now. But it's partially why I like it. I really do just super enjoy, if you have not noticed from my channel, playing with really bright, bold colors and then just muting them back a little bit, but still having that foundation of the bold and hyper-saturated present. It's one of the reasons I do enjoy these contrast colors and speed paints and all that kind of stuff so much, is because the pigments just sometimes feel so much more vivid to me than I get with standard paint. I don't know what it is about, like, I don't know if it's the satin finish to it and like normal acrylics are more matte or what, but, or maybe they're too glossy, because they do kind of they end up being shiny sometimes. Let's paint it up. But I do just want to remind everybody in chat or who's watching this later on YouTube that if you guys are interested in getting 3D printed models and you don't have a 3D printer yourself, then I would really recommend checking out today's sponsor, onlygames.co. This is where I got this miniature, and they do work with independent creators. So if you like Titan Forge or Ignition Core or One Page Rules and you want to support those content creators, get some of their cool miniatures. Onlygames.co is a fantastic place to be able to grab those, and you can even get some of them in pre-colored versions, which are honestly really, really cool. Like, this is just a high quality colored print of the same guy, and I like it. I like it a lot. 54 miniatures is quite a lot to paint and have on your work plate. That is honestly sounds like a great project to be getting through. Is that the number that came in the Age of Darkness box, Plastic Monkey, or is that in addition to the Age of Darkness? And while you answer that, I'm going to just keep working on some of this gold. I want to thank you guys all for being here too. I really appreciate, like, as we've been kind of getting into the swing of doing these streams and everything, that you guys have been really supportive, coming to hang out with me while I figure out what the heck I'm doing and how I should present these things and what I should be talking about. It's great. Like, you guys have just been amazing. Okay, that's the number that's in the box. That's what I thought. I was like, that sounds correct, but I wasn't sure because I haven't actually looked at my box in a while. Ooh, Mark, you just finished your AOS army? Nice. I can't remember if you've told me before, and if you did, I do apologize. What AOS army did you just finish? I have really been very, very slowly building a Soulblight Gravelords army, or at least kind of, by using some of my Cursed City models, and I really like collecting the vampires. They're really cool. But I've always also been tempted by Daughters of Cain. I'm just a little sad with what they've done to Marathi. I think that's just mostly because I'm really sad with, like, what they've done in general with the old world. Which is why I go play Total War Warhammer 3 so much. Although I really need to check out Vermintide. I've been having so much fun with Darktide recently, but the beta is now over, and so, because the game comes out tomorrow, I'm very much hyped for that. I can't wait for everybody to get access to it, especially for those that are on, like, Xbox Game Pass and everything. Because, like, it's such a fun game to play. And my progress is being saved. Woo! And I'll get access to some of the extra stuff that I got because I paid for the... I don't remember what they called it. I got the fancier version that gets you, like, some of the premium currency to spend and some extra cosmetics and such like that. But I've heard that Vermintide is basically, like, they've completed it, essentially. And while I know that there is a lack of variation when it comes to the armies that you're fighting in the game, because it's mostly Skaven with, I think, some Nurgle stuff, I do kind of want to run around because the last time that I played was ages ago, and I still did enjoy it. And since I have a better understanding of the sort of Left 4 Dead, how that's meant to play, because I've been playing a lot more Darktide, I feel like Vermintide, being their other property that's very, very popular with that same style of mechanic, is probably going to feel very intuitive nowadays. Ah, it's Nagash. Nice. Oh, okay, actually, so we've got two people. Mark, you have Sons of Behemoth, which is fantastic. I love those guys. And then also Maxfield is for Nagash, which also, the Undead. Oh, lovely. Oh, that's really, really cool. Hello from, sunny South Africa. Hello. That is awesome. Ooh, you're painting Leagues of Votann? What yellow? So this yellow that I'm currently using is a Yondan yellow. It is one of the contrast colors. I have thinned it a little bit with water, but I am actually letting it be relatively orangey right now. You can make it a bit more like yellow, but I actually think it is a fantastic foundation for a goldenrod color tone, or if you're wanting to do some like non-metallic metal looking effects, this works really well as a gold, just in general. I very, very much enjoy it. What did they do? Okay, so we're going to need to be a little bit delicate when we get up to his headpiece, because I do want to incorporate some of the, in their print it looks a little bit more green, but I'm imagining Thousand Suns gold and teal. So we're gonna do that on his headpiece. So we're gonna be a little careful around it, but let's get the collar done first, and we'll go from there. I really do just love how this color settles into the recesses. So make sure to do the underside here. That will be fine. Do any color correction we need to later. I will want to clean up this little pokey down bit. I think that is actually part of the collar, not meant to be part of his cloak, but I'll fix that in a bit. And then once we're done with this, we're going to switch over to our blue, and we're gonna get the blue lines done first on the headpiece. I think that's gonna work out better in case of spillover, which I imagine I will inevitably have, because this will probably be one of those points where I end up working with a slightly too large a brush than I actually should be, when really it's something that requires a little bit more of a delicate finesse. I do occasionally get very stubborn about my brush size, and I'm like, no, I am going to prove to people that if you just get high quality brushes with good tips, you can use a size 6 and do something very delicate. And sometimes that's not always how you should actually treat it, and I just get belligerent. For now, we can keep using our bigger brush, although I'm way overloaded on paint. The yellows especially are ones where I really have started being a little bit more careful with how I let them pool. I know I talked about this a little bit earlier, but for those of you that missed it, occasionally when I'm painting, like, the pooling of contrast paint is part of the reasons I like it so much, but I also sometimes overdo it a bit. And I'm trying to be a bit more mindful of that, especially with reds, yellows, and some of the lighter color tones, because they can sometimes just be awkward. I've totally got too much yellow still on this brush. You know what, let's just switch to a different brush that has no paint on it. I'm trying to clean up the edge of this a little bit, because I don't think that's supposed to be quite so yellow. And I'm trying to avoid as much actual cleanup as possible. Now his pin ornament needs to be yellow, so we'll get that. We'll hope we don't spill. If we do, it really won't be that big of a deal. I can just do some light cleanup, but cleaning up takes time. And I do actually want to try to get this guy done. Like, part of my challenge for today to myself was I was like, okay, I'm gonna actually try to get this miniature done. It's 1 mini, surely, and it's small. Surely I can work on it and get it done in the 2 or so hours that I'm going to be streaming. Surely I can do this. We'll see, we'll see. Hello, Fenris. Thank you for stopping by after just waking up. I hope you had a lovely sleep. I actually, I don't know what it was. It was just I had a really hard time falling asleep because I think I kept getting cold. Despite feeling very warm sometimes, I was having just hot flashes weirdly. It was odd. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. But I'm glad you had a good sleep, or I hope you had a good sleep. Nice. Also, I hope your assembly of your Slaves of Darkness go well. Did you get any of the, because I think, didn't Slaves of Darkness just have a couple of new models released, or they have something coming out soon? Are you excited for that? Because I know they're a pretty popular faction, or at least I thought they were. I mean, it's Chaos, right? Like, it should be. Should be, it's Chaos, says the biased Chaos player. I really freaking love how well this is coming together. Just look how cool that is. Let me flip him towards you. I love the purples working super well with the yellow orange and then that red cloak. Like, oh my goodness, so good. Okay, we need to get some of the gold portions on this. Now, what did they do? Whoop, whoop. Okay, they did not put any gold on the sword, which is great. That means I can hold it by the sword and paint the rest of it. So let's go ahead and get these taken care of. I'm not gonna paint the hilt. Although, you know, I may not follow their exact color scheme, which is, you know, never a problem. You can always do whatever you want when you're painting. That's the beautiful thing about being able to paint miniatures, is you get to make it your own. Even when you're following a guide or trying to mimic like what a particular faction's color scheme is, you can still do whatever the heck you want because it's your mini. You do what you want with it. Ooh, the Eternius blade would be very, very cool. Oh, do you already have a Be'lakor? Did I pick him up? I think I picked up a Be'lakor, but I've not painted him yet. I need to break out some of my big demon princes and just demons in general, because I have demon primarchs to paint, I have demon princes to paint, I have greater demons to paint. There's so many demons I could be painting. I even have great old ones I could be painting, because I still want to paint a Cthulhu. That is still on my list of potential things to do next year as like a big, maybe like month-long project, is paint up the big Cthulhu Death May Die that I have from the game Death May Die. I think that's good. Now, do I want to put any... Oh, I need to do his armband. Hold on. I'm leaving the very tiny edge of the miniature near where the connection point is happening unpainted for right now, predominantly so that I can just make sure I have a very clean surface to work with. I actually don't know. I assume Zap-A-Gap will be fine to use on the model to reattach the arm, but I'm actually not 100% sure like how this is going to react with the glue, or if I need to use plastic specific glue. I don't think so. I'm assuming the Zap-A-Gap will be fine. Sorry, this is looking a little more orangey right there than I want. Just gonna wet my paint a little bit and pull this back up a smidge. Okay, that's better. All right, I think that is looking pretty good. So we'll move on and actually get to some of that teal. Now I think my Tamiya brush is going to have a fine enough tip on it for me to work with. I just need it to be kind of delicate. But before we do that, I'm going to check comments because I see we've got a little bit of chatting happening, which I love seeing. So thank you guys so much for being active in chat. All right, you haven't got him yet, but you're planning on getting him next week. That is awesome, Fenris. Or yeah, Fenris's layer painting. I am very excited for like honestly just hearing about how that progress goes. I do hope you let me know and keep in touch about it because I'm interested. Paul is saying I have a black coach. Ooh. I do love that model. That's so cool that you've been painting for a year and I'm kind of scared. You're not gonna screw it up. You're not gonna screw it up. Just go for it. Like the nice thing is like you can always generally make corrections even if you end up putting a paint color down that you're not super pleased with. So just don't stress yourself about it. Approach it as you would any other project and just get to painting because I bet you'll get into a flow and you'll find a great like just inspiration for exactly what you want to do with it. And if you need some inspiration, check out Instagram, go online. There's tons of creators out there who are constantly just sharing what they're doing. And like I go and I look through things all the time to get inspired. for what I want to do with some of my projects. Because honestly, sometimes I'm like, so I'm going, well, what should I paint this? I don't want to repeat just my favorite colors over and over again because that would get boring for people. So sometimes I have to go and look and see what other folks have done and be like, cool, let me try something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. So just go at your own pace, you'll get it done. And I'm super, super enthusiastic to see what you eventually do with it. Like, it's gonna be so cool. Exactly. I agree with everybody in the comments who's also saying, just take a deep breath and then paint. It'll be good. It'll be fun. And like, if it's not, then take a break from it and come back to it when it starts feeling fun again. Because that's what this hobby should be doing for you. It should be giving you some relaxation. It should be allowing you to feel creative and give you a great outlet for that. And then in the end, you should feel super satisfied because you created something cool that you can now take to your playboard, like where you're playing your games, you know, put it on the table and actually like use it. And then have people go, oh my God, it's painted. That's so cool. Because I don't know about you, but like I have played at plenty of game stores where like the armies are just not painted, which is fine. I get some people don't want to do it. But then other times, like I've been to other stores where everybody has painted their stuff and I'm like, this is glorious. This is like my perfect game store where everybody has painted models and I don't care how well they're painted. I just love that they're painted and people are trying. So that's my soapbox about how the hobby is fun for you and you should definitely just go for it. Don't be scared and do it. Just do it. And this goes for Angela herself as well because I really need to paint Mortarion. You know what? That's gonna be one of my goals. One of my New Year's resolutions for 2023 is to paint Mortarion on camera. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I definitely feel like it should because I'm a Death Guard player. I've had him for like several years. He's just been chilling in a box. Haven't even built him. And I think it's gonna be time in the very, very soon. Oh, good. Please do tag me. And anybody else who has an Instagram and wants to share their photos of them with me, one of the best ways that you can is to tag me. I do try to get through them, at least give them all a heart, usually a comment if I can. I do get quite a number of them, but yeah, I'm always looking at those. I love seeing what you guys are working on. So yes, please feel free to tag me on Instagram to let me know, hey, I've done this cool thing. Because I genuinely do love seeing it. It's fantastic. You guys do some awesome stuff. Like the community as a whole just does amazing things. I have been gabbing. I need to take a small drink of both water and also caffeine. Sweet, sweet nectar. All right, let's continue painting. I have been gabbing about painting without actually painting. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about that. We need to do a tiny amount of cleanup on his headpiece. And normally, with how pale this yellow color tone is showing up, I would not normally care. However, because I'm going to be using Aethermatic Blue, I actually really care because I don't want it to look green. Like I really want that blue color tone to shine through. So we're gonna be delicate there. And yes. Okay, I do think I know how I'm gonna end up dividing this out. And I think it's gonna be good. It's looking good. I'm just doing a little bit more cleanup, making sure everything looks painted well. I completely didn't paint that side of his face. That's fine, we'll take care of it in a bit. Let's all go ahead and get my Aethermatic Blue mixed up. I thought about using Croxagore scales for this instead because it's a little bit, like when I was working on my orcs last week, I definitely noticed that the Aethermatic Blue, if I just layered it enough, started to get the same. Actually, now that they're dry, I say that, and I was looking at them just over here because they're still on my desk. I haven't finished them yet. Don't judge me. But I was originally thinking that they kind of looked very similar, and they still do on camera, but in real life, they actually are a little bit of a more subtle difference to them. And I do think the Aethermatic Blue is going to work best for the Thousand Suns color vibe that I'm really wanting. I have no idea if that's actually canonical at all for Tomb Kings, because it's been a while since I've like looked at official art, but I think I want to say Cetra Tetra have blue in his color palette, and is it teal? I'll have to look. It's been so long since I've actually run Tomb Kings in Total War Warhammer 3, and that's the only reference that I really have for them on just outside of some of the books, but like some of the books that I have are a little older, so I don't know if the color is true or not anymore. Hello, Mr. J, welcome to the stream. Hope you are doing well. But yeah, I really hope this color ends up working out. Okay, let's go ahead and focus on the headpiece. And there's a little bit of like divided lines, so I'm just gonna try to follow them. Oh my god, I already love how this is looking. If I can keep this clean the entire time, I will be so fracking pleased. If I end up pulling this away from you guys, I do apologize, but it's because I need to see better so that I can keep this clean. So I'm sorry. I also may go a little quiet for a moment because I'm going to be concentrating. Yeah. All right, what do you do at the top? Okay, the stripes go the other way. No. Okay. Let's finish off the sides here. So delicate. Oh, but it's looking so cool already. And I haven't even put the yellow on. Do want to make sure I don't accidentally hit some of the other yellow I've already painted on his collar accidentally with this color tone, but like, look how nice that striping's already turning out. Like, I hope you guys can see it well. I think it's gonna look really, really cool once the both colors are on there. Okay, I need to look at this for reference. Okay, that one entire big section is all blue. That is good to know. I see. Okay. I am like talking to myself a little bit, but I'm trying to figure out how this blue on the top like wraps around because I want it to still look cool. Very important to me that it looks cool. And I'm now terrified that I'm gonna bork it up. Oh my gosh, so good, so good. I am doing very well. I'm so glad that you are enjoying the content. And I apologize if this portion is a little less exciting, as I am very, very focused on making sure I don't smear this blue paint places I don't want it and go out of the lines. It's coming together so well, though. Good, it's feeling great. How am I going to... I may have to switch to an even smaller brush for the next section, because it basically has it so that the blue on the top is kind of just in the recesses. And I'm worried I'm not going to be able to do that super cleanly with the current size brush that I'm using. So I may switch, but let me finish going down here. Need a little bit more paint on my brush. There we go. I think that having the color pop a bit better. Okay. Okay, so now it's just the top portion, and I'm super nervous about this, so give me a second. Just like shake out my hands. Okay, I can do this. I can hit these small little lines. Let me find a tiny brush. Okay, so I've got this super tiny brush. Are you too misshapen? You might be a little, the bristles on that are a little borked. Let me see. You know what? We're gonna open one of the other brushes that Tommy has sent me that I've not used yet that's super tiny. This is their Pro #2 Ultra Fine brush. Let's go ahead and test it out. Ooh. If I can get it out of the packaging without screwing up the bristles. All right. This is, okay, hold on. Do you see how super tiny delicate this is? Okay, now this is the cap that was on it. I mean, it's good because there is no way that cap is really gonna like impact those bristles, but I've never seen such a giant cap on a brush for such a tiny, why don't they all do it this way? This is so good. I know it's just package design, but like I have had so many brushes where I've pulled the little cylindrical plastic caps off of them on a really nice high quality brush, but like accidentally jerked my hand or like hit the bristles or something and just completely screwed up the brush before I even got a chance to use it. So the fact that that just like came off without any effort and had zero, this is the tiniest brush I've ever used in my life. Okay, let's try this. Let's see if we can delicately line. Oh my God, I'm so nervous. Mostly for my eyeballs being able to focus. Okay, I do not have enough paint on that. I think I do now. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, this is working. Oh my God. So delicate. So tiny. Requires constant rewetting of the brush. Oh, but it's looking so cool. I have no idea if you guys can actually at all freaking see this. Hello, Mike. How are you? I hope you are doing well. Welcome to the stream. Right, this figure is totally coming to life, and I love it. It's so good. Okay. Are working on these little details. Oh, I'm so pleased with how well this brush is working. I don't like to use super tiny brushes like this because I feel like my hand gets cramped. I feel like sometimes it's just too small, but this is really working well. And frankly, I'm kind of surprised. I would not want to do this for super long periods of time because this amount of like tiny detail work would totally make me go cross-eyed. Like crazy. long term, but I cannot deny how good this looks. Well, let's hope we can make it stay looking good and we don't mess it up when we put the yellow down. And by we, I mean I, because I'm the one painting. Hopefully I don't mess it up when I put the yellow down. I don't think I will, hopefully, knock on wood. But who the heck knows? Okay, I'm feeling really good about that. I absolutely, oh my god, he looks so stunning. Let's clean this brush. This is the tiny, like, it's just so, is the paint out of the bristles? I can't tell, they're tiny. How am I supposed to see them? How am I supposed to, like, not immediately destroy? I'm just so nervous with this brush. Okay. Let's close our Aethermatic Blue, because I don't think we need any more of that. And we are going to get this plastic off my arm, get out of here. And then we're going to shake up our Yawning Yellow one more time. Right? It's looking so good. Oh, I also can put him back on his stand. I'm ready to do more yellow work. I might put some of the Aethermatic Blue on the weapon. Is that what I want to do for the blade? I might do that on the blade instead of what they did. Like, I like what they did, but I just don't know if I don't know if it'll look as good not in the printed way that they've accomplished it. And by what they did is they actually, for those of you who've not seen it, here is the colored version of the same model that Only Games sent me. Yeah. So like he has this like multi-tone of blue kind of fading into white or into gray, which I think I could definitely do with a wet blend. But I almost want to put more blue on this boy because I like keeping things really bright and bold and colorful. So I might do that. But let's, in the meantime, we need to work on this other tone. So let's go ahead and get the yellow down and delicately apply that so that we don't end up mixing our two colors and getting green. That's really what we're trying to avoid here. Maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing, but if I can keep the purity of that lovely teal color tone that Aethermatic Blue produces, I will be such a like happy girl. Holy cow. And so I can do some delicate touch-up work in these recesses. And then after that, we will probably do a wash over all the gold to knock it back just a smidge, because it is very yellow looking right now. But I honestly really like it. I think it works super well. Go ahead and keep painting though. Holy moly. This is coming together so beautifully. Thank you, Only Games, for sending this to me and giving me this opportunity to paint out this really amazing model. Also, thank you to One Page Minis for just making some gosh darn cool miniatures. Like, this is just so fun. Mr. J asks, what's the favorite piece that I have painted? Dude, the problem is I've painted so many different things and like, it's really hard for me to pick. I think, so Abaddon the Despoiler is probably one of my all-time favorite pieces that I painted because he was just one of the more elaborate characters that I've done up to now. But I also just really enjoy painting orcs, for example. So I will never say no to needing to paint more orcs. And the same thing were with my Death Guard. I actually really like painting my Death Guard. It's why Mortarian's on my brain right now. I've also had a fan showing me what he's been working on with his Mortarian, and it looks so cool. He's doing some really nice, beautiful, bold purples, and like the green tone he's got on the armor is just so good. So I'm like really motivated to maybe paint some more Death Guard because it's been a while since I've done that. I really also love painting terrain. Like, there's just something really cathartic about working on a big terrain piece or even just a small terrain piece and being able to be a little bit more haphazard. I get to dry brush a lot more when I'm working on terrain, which I really enjoy just as a technique. So there's lots of different things that I really like working. Hello, Andrew. Welcome to the stream. Glad you could make it. It's always lovely to have you here. I hope you're doing well. Keep working on this headdress. Oh, this is so cool. You know, honestly, I really have to say that I'm probably, like, to go back to your question, Mr. J, of what's my favorite thing to paint? I think it's always whatever I am currently working on or just finished. Because, yeah, I guess it's whatever I just finished is generally my favorite thing, because each project brings something new to my table, and I only pick things that I think will be interesting or like entertaining to paint. And yeah, so I also think I could just honestly say whatever the last thing that I painted was, which in this case was, I think on the channel at least, it was the orcs. Night was really cool too. It really just is very dependent. I'm debating whether or not this is an optical illusion that's happening or if I'm actually overlapping. I don't think I am. I think what is happening is my eyeball is trying to read some of this color as green because it is yellow and blue so freakishly close to each other that I am reading them mixing when they actually aren't. And I haven't experienced that since, like, honestly, a color theory class in college. It's really weird. I remember specifically there was a project I was doing and I hated this class because my professor, when we were doing it, we only ever painted freaking square swatches of color. And so everything was geometric and boring. And like, I'm sorry if you like square patterns, but I was just so over it. But that was the last time I actually experienced, like, I think it's an optical illusion. I don't think I don't think it's actually turning green. I think it's just because it has yellow directly next to it. Which honestly kind of works because it's giving a little bit of a turquoisey feel, which is super appropriate for like Egyptian themed things. But like it's tripping my eyeballs out. Like it's definitely tripping my eyes out. Wait, a Chaos Temple that Games Workshop came out with? Look this up. I don't know of a temple specifically, and it's chaos themed. Okay, Fenners, I need you to message me on like Instagram or something and show me a picture of this because I am intrigued and possibly very jealous. Because that sounds super exciting. Okay, let's keep working on this because I don't want to. I do want to try to get this guy done. We're gonna ignore my eyeballs telling me that things are turning green. I'm being very careful about my flow. Like I'm using very little paint so that it's not overflowing. I didn't have that much overlap. Like I have a little bit, sure, but like it shouldn't be. I think it's just my eyes. Clearly I'm getting too old and they're failing me. A little bit too much excess yellow on that chin piece, so let's clean that up a little bit and then keep progressing forward. Oh my goodness. I did not get the undersides of those in yellow or blue. Well, we'll fix that in a second. There's always one section. Always somewhere that I miss. And most of the times it's the hands. Sometimes I feel like it, Andrew. Sometimes I feel like it. The pen is blue. Oh God, I haven't watched that movie in ages. Such a good film though. So dumb, but in the best kind of way. That's looking good. A little bit of detailing there that needs to be yellow. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I do think it is just my eyes. I'll have to post a picture of it later on Instagram, and you guys can tell me in the comments and be like, is it actually green or is it just my eyeballs? I think that's what's happening on this one, honestly, because I don't think that this color that they've printed into the headdress is actually green. I think it's also a very deep teal, but because it's next to so much yellow and it's a very like yellowy, like cheddary yellow, it ends up looking kind of greenish. I don't mind it. Like the more that I look at it, I know I keep kind of like complaining about it a little bit, but it's growing on me the more and more that I look at it. Now this might actually turn a little green because this is a denser and more tighter area, so we'll see. But we'll try it. Dun, 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 dun. It's looking so cool. I need a little bit more paint. I wish, like, my problem with these super tiny brushes is I feel like they simultaneously have too much paint and then too little paint, and there's no good in between. I find that frustrating, but I do need the delicacy of this brush right now, because it has genuinely been doing me some wonders. I like the little like cobra that he's got on his headdress. Very classic. Very beautiful. Like all of your faces. I need, oh, there's some. All right, I'm gonna take them off so that I can brace my hand against my desk a little bit more for stability sakes. Words. All right, let's do this. I'm so nervous. Oh my gosh, so many. So good. All right. That is like the thinnest little edge. This is so difficult. Why do they make such little details? Because they look really cool when they're done. Okay. No, that is absolutely not finished painted. Hold on. I think I've got it, like... I think that looks good. I feel like I'm satisfied with it. I'm sure I'll fuss with it a little bit later, like, oh. Everything's fine. The model is okay. See, that, if I had done that, that would explain why maybe I broke the arm off earlier, but it happened later. Oh, I need to use blue. That's why that looks so weird. Let's clean my brush. My super tiny little brush. Get some more Aethermatic blue. And let's do a little bit of touch up. Maybe we can make things look a little bit more blue rather than if it is turning a little green. It might be actually turning green. I can't actually tell. It's hard to tell, but regardless, whatever. It looks good still. I'm still reading, it's still reading correctly, although this needs to actually have some paint on it. There we go. And there we go. Okay, let's see if we can enhance this a little. Putting a bit more blue over top of it. Show that color. Am I just making it more greeny looking? Who knows? We'll find out later. Oh, looking good though. You know what? Even if it is a little bit of a mix of teal and green, like blue, green, and yellow, I think it still works. And I am quite pleased. Lovely. Okay. Holy cow, I think that's actually him done. So we just have the arm to work on, which means like, holy cow, I'll actually have finished the model during the stream. Excellent. I will definitely be checking it out later on, Fenris. Thank you so much. I'm very, very hyped for it. I cannot wait to actually check that out right after I'm done with this before I eat my lunch. We need to paint this sword. So I am going to diverge from what they did, and I'm actually going to work with some of the colors that I already have. I want to put a little bit of red on the hilt of the sword. I think that will look really nice. We can move back up to our less tiny brush. Still a small brush, but not as super tiny because we don't need quite as delicate of a hand. Let's get some of the paint, excess paint off this, and we'll go to town. I think the thing that I'm still debating whether or not I want to do is if I want the little, what is this portion of the sword called? Like, I know this is overall the hilt, right? But like this specific end portion right here, the little bobble section that normally is on the end of the sword, does that have like a specific name, or is it just the tip of the hilt? I don't actually know. But regardless, I don't know if I want to do that in gray or gold. I feel like, because I've just now painted this in red, I should probably go gold because I feel like it'll just fit better. So I might just end up doing that. Spin, there we go. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And then, do I need to paint anything? Pretty good. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and do yellow. So we're gonna pull back out our Yanden. Get a little bit of gold on here because I just think it's gonna blend with what we've done already. Perfect. And then that means we need to paint a little bit of this. And then I'm gonna make this little, oh, it's a scarab. I was not like able to tell at first what that was. There's sometimes when I'm looking at a model really up close and I'm being unable to see the details, it just takes a little bit of paint to be thrown onto it. And then I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Because all the paint flows into those recesses and helps me identify like what the heck I'm actually looking at. I should have guessed that it's a scarab though, because it's an Egyptian themed model, right? So that is a very Egyptian thing. I mean, literally the Mummy from 1991. Is that when it came out? The one with Brendan Fraser, like my all-time favorite film. Just so good. Can watch it all the time. It has lots of scarabs in it, and they eat your flesh. Really, they like eat your brain is more what happens, but they do over time consume your flesh. Absolutely. Looking cool. I think this also yellow. Little thing that comes up because I think that'll help it stand out. And then we're gonna let this dry a little bit. I'm gonna tell you guys one more time about only games before I head out, and then we'll get that little thing painted up and we'll call the stream there. I'm feeling pretty good about this. Yeah, that's looking really cool. Okay, we're gonna let it dry. And I just wanted to say thank you one more time to onlygames.co for sponsoring today's live stream. They were the ones who provided me not only the miniature that you have been seeing me paint today, but also this cool color printed version that they provided. This is from one of their creators, which is One Page Games. If you guys are familiar with their stuff, I would highly recommend going and check them out because you can buy some of their miniatures along with a variety of other indie creators on onlygames.co. They do have some options where you can get these pre-printed colored versions, provided that the creator that you're buying from has made a colored version of their model, which obviously One Page Games does. I don't know specifically which other of their creators are doing this, but I suspect a number of them are because frankly, I just think the quality of this looks really, really cool. You can base this guy up and immediately start playing with him in a game. And I think it'd work perfectly. But if you're like me and you like painting your own miniatures, you can still just buy an unpainted version that'll come to you in a gray plastic. And they're really high quality prints for their miniatures. There's, like I said, a lot of different indie creators on there, which I would highly recommend you go explore because you might be surprised to find that some of your favorites are on there. I was not actually aware that Ignition Core was on Only Games, but I really like their mech models and would highly encourage you to go check them out. They have a really cool little game, and I just think it's really neat. So there's a bunch of different creators. Go check them out. And if you are wanting to shop with them, whether this holiday season or later on, whether for yourself or for somebody in your life, definitely make sure to use my discount code, which I've left in the video description for you, and save yourself 15% on your order. I think it's a really cool little system that they have there. And if you do have a 3D printer, maybe you don't want to necessarily get a printed version, you want just the STLs, well, they are part of the My Mini Factory family, so you can probably find these exact same creators over on My Mini Factory where you can just buy the STLs and print the models yourself. But regardless, there's plenty of great things to explore over on onlygames.com or onlygames.co, so make sure to go check it out. Now, we have basically got him done. I need to now, I think this is looking dry. So I'm going to close my paints, going to do a little bit of a shake of the achromatic blue. And we're going to get the sword painted, and it's going to be very glowy looking because this is my go-to for any glow effects ever, is just throwing a bit of achromatic blue on it because it really just works. So let's go ahead and get this color down. Oh, that immediately just does what I want it to. A little delicate around there. Again, we don't want it to look too green, but honestly, at this point, I'm like, listen, it's a turquoise blade. It works. And if it ends up, like, those are somewhat irregular stones sometimes, so slightly different colors I can work with. I do really like how this is coming out. Let's get the other side. I'm a bit nervous, so if you see my hands shaking, that's all that's happening there. I'm like, don't mess it up, Angela, you're on the last step, it's okay. You've done well. Get that mini painted, woo! Woo! Almost! All right, this, I am feeling very happy about that. I think the only thing that I would realistically do after this is throw a probably Seraphim Sepia or Reikland's Flesh Shade wash over the gold just to knock it back a little bit and make it feel a little bit more like an antiqued rosy gold color tone, because that's sort of my classic go-to, but I'm really enjoying the way that this guy turned out. I think the teal blue stands out really beautifully. I actually love how vibrant but slightly darker and therefore not as prominent both his loincloth with that Sigvald burgundy and the cape turned out with the red. I actually think the cape is the thing. I don't want to set this down and accidentally mess it up. Hold on, I have some spare putty. Okay, all right, we're good. I do think that I managed to mimic the cape pretty well. Obviously, it needs a bit of weathering to happen to it. Maybe I'll try some of my powders on this. I have not actually tried the weathering powders on something small. I've only actually used it on the big knight. So maybe that'll be something that I try either next time as just continuing experimenting or just playing around more. But I really like what I got out of this. I cannot wait to get his arm reattached so that I have like a completed model. But this is basically my first Tomb King model, and I'm so very happy. Thank you once again to onlygames.co for sponsoring today's live stream, and I hope you guys have just enjoyed this, and I hope to see you next time. I'm going to head out and go ahead and grab some lunch. And for those of you that have sent me some messages on Instagram to show me some of the stuff we were talking about during the live stream, I'll get to those very shortly. Anyways, I hope you had fun. I have been Angela, and I hope you have a wonderful hobby night. See you next time. Bye.